Okay, so we've had a talk about the traditions of leap year. We've had a little cry about the hairy biker dying, and we've had a rant about police. So it turned into a longer stream probably than I was wanting it to be, or meaning it to, not wanting it to be. I could sit and talk for hours, to be honest. Doesn't take much, I like talking, as you can gather. I'm just having a look because, of course, we're looking to see if there's any, we're waiting for the little boy Cello to be found. I don't think there's been any news on that. So, I'll tell you what we could have a look at. We'll have a look at this report that's just come out about Wayne Couzens. So here he is. Yeah, his nickname was the RIPIST amongst the fellow officers. So the thing is, this is even more annoying because his fellow officers, they knew what he was like. There's definitely in the police force, there's a culture of cover up. Probably in, a lot of, people cover up for each other. And I understand it in little things, like if he'd stolen a stapler and took it home, you know what I mean? Something like that. But, done something maybe in that, you do cover up, you're not going to go and report someone for stealing a stapler from the office or whatever. But for God's sake, we're talking about a man who's exposing himself to women, exposing himself at McDonald's, going through McDonald's with nothing on his bottom half. He's not just, these are not small offences. So this is where it says, Sarah Everard's killer should never have been an officer. The report demands the overhaul of police vetting. So red flags were repeatedly ignored by police vetting, according to the inquiry. It says it has evidence that he allegedly committed a very serious sexual assault against a child before his policing career even began. Goodness me. I mean, he just, we often say about the eyes being to the windows to the soul, and look at his eyes. Just imagine. So those eyes, that was the last sight Sarah Everard ever had, looking into his horrible eyes. Anyway, I hope he's getting a bad time in prison, because what he did was he'll be, I presume he's in, what do they call it? I presume he's being kept away from the other prisoners because he would just be a target. Good. Anyway, so yeah, he RAPD'd and murdered Sarah after staging a fake arrest in March 2021. What a horrible, horrible man. So this is an independent report, the first of 3 that will be published by Lady Elish Angiolini. They're all baronesses or ladies or lords, aren't they? That that annoys me because anyway, never mind. You know what I think about the honour system. But they delivered a damning verdict on how 3 separate police forces could and should have stopped Couzens. So this is Sarah. She looked so young because she was in her 30s, but she just she just looks again such a lovely person. And it's always lovely people, it seems, because she would whatever, she would respect the police, wouldn't she? So that's probably why she got into the car with him. He just took advantage of her good nature, really, and just the fact she was a bit, gullible to believe him. But then what else do you do? It's in the middle of COVID. She was walking home. She shouldn't have been, if she would have stuck to the rules. It's true that and that's what he used against her. He used her good nature, her gullibility, her trust of the police to get her into his car, take her off. This was in Clapham in London. Take her off and God knows what, do what. Anyway, the report examined his career and highlights how major red flags about him were repeatedly ignored by police vetting and investigations. He had a preference for extreme and violent pornography and a history of excessive spending and personal debt. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. So, yeah, and this sexual assault against a child, I haven't heard of that before, to be fair. So he's one of the very few people in Britain. He has been given a whole life tariff. So no parole. He will never, ever be released from prison. He's in prison for life. And that's very unusual in Britain because in Britain, unfortunately, we don't normally give these whole life tariffs. So yeah, used his police-issued warrant card to stage a fake arrest, snatched on the 3rd of March 2021, so it's coming up to the anniversary. He drove her to a secluded rural area, raped her and strangled her with his police-issued belt. Can you imagine how terrified that girl would have been? How her parents even get up in the morning, I don't know, because that must be haunting them, the thought of what this man put her through. He then burnt her body in a fridge and dumped her remains in a pond. What a twat. Sorry, twonk won't do it. He's a twat. Complete twat. And after the harrowing killing, it emerged there'd been concerns about his behaviour. Do you know, this is the problem. There were red flags. So it's not as if, oh God, he was just some, nice policeman who had never, done anything wrong. People knew that he was a nutter. His nickname was the rapist. Anyway, let's have a look at this video.
Wayne Couzens was never fit to be a police officer. Police leaders need to be sure there isn't another Couzens operating in plain sight. Inquiry has seen evidence that Couzens allegedly committed a very serious sexual assault against a child, barely in her teens, before his policing career even started. Problems with money also predated his career with the police. Couzens had substantial unsecured debt by the time he was arrested for Sarah's murder. At the same time, the Metropolitan Police Service were taking action to recover up to £15,000 that had been paid to him in error, and a year-long mortgage holiday was about to expire that month. The evidence seen by the inquiry has shown that failures in recruitment and vetting meant Couzens was able to continue a policing career which should have been denied to him. Failures in investigations into allegations of indecent exposure meant opportunities to disrupt Couzens' offending and bring his policing career to a halt were missed. It is clear that Couzens carefully managed the impression he gave people of himself. This included the way he manipulated information on application forms and his troubled finances. It also included the way he shared his callous views towards women with only a very small group of like-minded people on a social media group. This all enabled him to target vulnerable women while operating in plain sight as an apparently unremarkable officer. However, the fact remains that 3 separate police forces allowed him the privilege of being a police officer when they could and should have stopped him.
Yeah, so, it's one of them, isn't it? Lessons learned. It'll happen again, I'm sure. So he'd actually indecently exposed himself 3 times before he murdered Sarah. That's that we know of, including twice at a drive-through fast food restaurant, which was a McDonald's in Kent in the days before the killing. He was not caught despite driving his own car and using his own credit card at the time, so he could have been caught. Oh, and when he was arrested, he first thing he said was he didn't know anything about it, and the second thing he said was that some Eastern European human trafficking gang he owed money to, and they'd said that if he didn't bring them a girl, they would harm his family because he was married and he had children. And so this is why he said he kidnapped Sarah when he realised that he'd been seen on CCTV talking to her, on dashcam TV actually, talking to her, and it became apparent that she'd got in his car. He then came out with this absolute bullshit story that this Eastern European gang that he owed money to had said to him, well, you've got to bring us a woman. And he took Sarah to them and just gave her to them, and he didn't know what happened after that, you know. What a twonk. So yeah, how did he become a police officer in the first place? But then, okay, let's give it the police the benefit of the doubt, became a police officer despite this offence against the young girl. But then he was a police officer for 20 years, you know, and his offences were known. He had that nickname. It was known that he was a danger to women. So anyway. Oh, we've got a little, let's see how long that is. So, Martin Brunt, there you go, Mr. Folding's friend and Mark Williams Twonk's friend. A while ago, I interviewed a new police recruit, a personable young man called Tom Fontaine, who used to serve me a white Americano in my local cafe before he decided to get what he considered a more meaningful career. He had been rejected in his first application, but was so determined to become a copper, he persevered and was finally accepted by Sussex Police. He'd finished his probation and he'd just made his first arrest, but his sense of pride and achievement had been dented by the scandal of Wayne Couzens. He told me whenever the police mess up, it's always straight on the news. But people like Wayne Couzens are just individuals. They don't represent policing. You know, and it's true that, I think, because, you know, in every profession, just always seems worse, doesn't it, in the police? But there'll be plumbers out there that commit crimes. There'll be electricians. There'll be, you know, all sorts of different people from all different professions. But it just feels here because he was a policeman and because, you know, there were red flags. Anyway. So it says he failed the interview when he first tried to join the police. Do you know where the dog is, Jack?
Huh?
The dog.
What? Whose dog?
Your dog.
I don't know how your dogs are.
Okay. So he failed at his first interview when he first tried to join the Kent Police, and he became a volunteer constable with the county's Special Constabulary in 2006 before failing to gain vetting clearance in a further application. But despite the vetting failure, he continued to work as a volunteer. And then he moved to the Civil Nuclear Constabulary, and his application was vetted by Thames Valley Police. And it said they recommended he should not pass vetting. Let's have a look at this interview.
So today's sentencing of Couzens reflects the awful nature of the crimes that he committed on those women that he targeted. And for those that listen to the victims' impact statements at court, it's clear the hurt and the trauma that he inflicted on them. But it's their courage that has enabled us to bring Couzens to justice for these crimes. But I'm sorry, I truly am sorry for everything that they've gone through. And like so many of us, I really do wish that Couzens had been arrested for these offences before he went on to kidnap, rape and murder Sarah Everard. And I'm sorry that he wasn't arrested. Have we got everything right before? We absolutely have not. Are we doing lots of things now to root out those who are sexist, misogynistic, racist? We absolutely are. we have a long way to go. We've already taken tremendous steps to do much, much more around driving up standards and rooting out those who should not be in this organisation. But I absolutely recognise that we have a lot to do to earn the trust of people, to earn the trust of Londoners in the Metropolitan Police.
Yes, it's too late for Sarah, though. Too late for Sarah. So he had financial issues then. He had an individual voluntary arrangement used by those in debt wishing to avoid bankruptcy. But the recommendation was not followed. And during an episode in 2013, when he was serving because he wasn't only a policeman, he was a firearms officer. So he was an authorised firearms officer. So he was more than just a copper on the beat, you know. So he was reported missing from home. But the CNC was not informed and therefore denied an opportunity to revisit his suitability as a constable. He was then moved to the Met again in 2018, but his vetting was flawed. It failed to take into account entries linking him on the police, entries linked to him on the police database, which included his car being linked to an allegation of indecent exposure in 2015. I mean, how many different warning signs do they have to be? And who paid the price for this was Sarah.
The first of the offences in time involved A, who was cycling up a narrow country lane between Deal and Dover on the 13th of November 2020 at around 2:30 in the afternoon. Photographs of the lane in question show that it has a banked verge up one side with some woodland at the top. As A cycled up, a man stepped out from the trees. He was naked, energetically masturbating, his erect penis looking directly into A's eyes as he did so. From the photographs, he must have been less than 2 meters away from her as she passed.
Oh my God, how was he allowed to stay as a policeman?
She could do nothing but cycle on, pedalling slowly up the hill past him as he continued to stand there manipulating his penis. Further on, A noted an old black car parked up in a lay-by. She came across some walkers, one of them a female police officer, and told them what had happened. She phoned her husband, who went to meet her. He reported the incident to a police car in the area, and when she got home, A reported the offence to Kent Police online, giving what she remembered of the number plate of the black car, insufficient, as it turned out, to enable any tracing. No one got back to her. But when, in March 2021, A's husband drew her attention to the reporting of Sarah Everard's murder, A recognised the person who had exposed himself to her and immediately contacted police. The victim personal statements of A, B, and C, read in court just now, speak justly of their shock and upset at this defendant's selfish, sexually aggressive.
Well, could you imagine how that woman, I mean, for a start, how terrifying, just cycling along and some naked guy comes out of the woods, you know, pleasuring himself, and she must have been terrified. But then to find out later, to see him on the telly and realise, I mean, she reported it, she did the right thing. You can't do any more than report it. The police did not take any action, or they did not find this guy. Oh my God, I just cannot believe it. So you know, Sarah should not have died. You know, sometimes things happen. The wrong, you know, you look back and you think there's nothing that really could have been done about that. But this, God, I honestly, Sarah's family, I just feel for them so much. To have had to sit and listen to this and know that their daughter could have been saved if the police would have been, you know, he should not have been still a policeman. He should have, you know, I just can't imagine how that would feel. To know that, and how this poor woman feels, knowing that could have been her. That could have been her that day. Or, you know, or was he building up? Quite often, men that start off with indecent exposure, they end up doing something, much more serious. I mean, to me, that is serious, obviously, but it's almost like a practice to the big event, which is murder later on, or RAPE.
Acts. All have spoken of their sense of freedom and security taken from them, of feeling vulnerable and fearful for themselves and others going about their ordinary lives. One woman, after discovering who had done this and what he had gone on to do, speaks of a wholly understandable sense of survivor's guilt. The fact that no police came to find him or his black car to question him about these incidents can only have served to confirm and strengthen in the defendant's mind a dangerous belief in his invincibility, in his power sexually to dominate and abuse women without being stopped.
Gosh, I didn't. I knew a lot about this Sarah Everard case, but I did not know that. I didn't know. I knew that he'd exposed himself at McDonald's. That was bad enough, but I didn't know about these cases as well that he'd also done. And that woman, she'll have this survivor's guilt. A lot of people, not only women, but anyone who survived something, they feel guilty. Whenever someone's murdered, it seems like everybody feels guilty except the perpetrator. So like you get people who feel guilty because, I don't know, they should have known something or they should have said something. I expect his wife is feeling guilty now because she's probably thinking she should have known something about him. Maybe she did know something about him. His friends will be feeling guilty now because they thought he was funny, and now it turns out that he wasn't just joking, he meant it. So everyone will be feeling guilty, and probably Wayne isn't feeling guilty. Wayne will just feel bad that he got caught. It'll all be about him. So it also details allegations of how he tried to show colleagues violent and extreme pornography. And on at least 2 occasions he allegedly shared, probably, don't think you have to bother with allegedly, shared sexually graphic images with young women. But the most glaring missed opportunities to disrupt Couzens' offending and end his police career were the failures to properly investigate allegations of indecent assault. This poor girl has died in a most horrible way. Just the thought of his face being the last thing that you see, that poor girl. So he was the subject of allegations on 4 separate occasions before his arrest. So in 2015, a member of the public telephoned Kent Police having just seen a man driving a car while indecently exposing himself, and almost immediately officers identified Couzens as the registered keeper of the car and the only male insured to drive it. But Kent Police closed the case and took no further action, which is described as a grave error. A grave error, for fuck's sake. I'm sorry. A grave error. Closing the case. What? I mean, what is the rationale behind that? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So a man driving a car, indecently exposing himself. Oh, it's Wayne Couzens. Oh, yeah, he's a policeman. He's the registered keeper of the car and the only male insured to drive it. Let's close the case and take no further fucking action. Right. Oh, I can see it. I'm getting angry now, really angry. Because, it's different when you think they didn't know, but they knew what kind of a man he was. And the same force responded to an allegation of indecent exposure directed at a lone female cyclist in a narrow country lane in Deal in 2020. So you can't even go for a bike ride, ladies. Couzens was convicted of the offence in 2023, but the initial case was closed with limited investigation. And then just 2 days before he abducted Sarah Everard, Couzens was reported for exposing himself at a drive-through McDonald's restaurant in Swanley. I mean, do you know what? If you read that in a book, you'd think, oh, that couldn't possibly happen. Oh, this is the when he was arrested. I wonder if I can find the video. I'd quite like to watch the video actually of when he was arrested. So Sarah Everard's family respond to the inquiry. So they strongly support the recommendations which will improve the safety of women and girls. And they said that the inquiry has helped us, not just because of its significant findings, but because its implementation made us feel that Sarah's life was valued and her memory honoured. Her death has not been dismissed as a tragic event to be acknowledged with sympathy and then forgotten. Questions have been raised and action taken. Doesn't bring about though, does it, bless? So the family added, it's obvious that Wayne Couzens should never have been a police officer while holding a position of trust. In reality, he was a serial sex offender. Warning signs were overlooked throughout his career, and opportunities to confront him were missed. We believe that Sarah died because he was a police officer, because she would never have got into a stranger's car. It's almost 3 years now since Sarah died. We no longer wait for her call. We no longer expect to see her. We know she won't be there at family gatherings. But the desperate longing to have her with us remains, and the loss of Sarah pervades every part of our lives. So there's more parts to come to this inquiry. So the second part will take a broader look at police vetting and recruitment nationally, as well as police culture and the protection of women in public spaces. Something needs to be done. I mean, women should not feel they cannot go into public spaces in that, jogging, walking their dog, on their bike. Women should not be prisoners with no-go areas for them because of twonks like this. Part 3 will investigate the crimes and career of former Oh, great. So part 3 will go into David Carrick, and he was jailed for 30 years, which is a good sentence in Britain, because although he didn't actually kill anybody, as far as we know, he was unmasked as one of Britain's worst ever sex offenders. So he did get a 30-year sentence, which for Britain is a really good sentence. Okay, so I'll keep... I am going to let you go sooner or later, but I just want to look at his arrest. There is a... Yeah, it is on YouTube.
So we're here to talk to you about Sarah. Do you know Sarah?
I don't know.
Okay. Sarah went missing. I'll show you some pictures of her on the day.
Okay.
Sarah went missing on Wednesday. And her parents, obviously, and her family are really worried about that now. The inquiry that's been conducted so far has led us to come and speak to you about it, to see what you know about Sarah. Okay, so would you like to? Do you know where Sarah is?
No.
Right. Okay. Do you know anything about what happened to her?
I know that she went missing up in London somewhere. What, about a week ago or so? Just from what I've got on the news.
Okay. Have you ever personally met her?
No, not personally, no.
Have you had any interactions with her?
Why would I have personal interactions with her?
Well, it's very difficult because I can't go into a lot of the evidence because obviously that's not part of what an urgent interview is. Okay, this interview is just about trying to find her.
It's a good job they've got the subtitle because it's very quiet, isn't it? Look at the cat jumping up on these things here. He'd rang the vets. He seems to be some sort of a bloody animal lover. But anyway, they had pets because I think the very next day as well, or the same day even, that he'd murdered Sarah, or the next day, he was on the phone to his vets about one of his pets, like as if nothing had happened. You know, as if he hadn't just raped and murdered a young woman.
Sure.
She's been missing for a while now.
I'm sat in handcuffs and you're asking me what I know her. So you must have something to say that I know her.
Well, I said, you've been arrested on suspicion of kidnap, and we believe that you've been involved in her disappearance and taking her away from her family.
Okay.
So we are trying to find her. Obviously, everybody is very worried about her. She's got, parents. She's got, she's siblings. She's got a boyfriend. There's a lot of people who care about her.
Sure.
You've seen her on the news, the people that are reaching out about her.
Sure.
They're looking for her every day, and she's missing. And our job, our primary job here, is to find her and to try and find her.
Okay.
Now we believe we know something about where she is, and that's why we're here to look for her and to try and find her. And that's why we're talking to you now, and to try and get you to have a good think about it. Trust anything you can about whether or not we're to find her.
Okay. I am in financial, and I've been lent on by.
Yeah, so this is where he realises that they've got a reason why they're there, the reason why they've handcuffed him, and he starts coming out with this crap story now that he's in financial problems and he's been lent on by some mafia or something.
I don't know who they are. They're a group, a gang.
He doesn't know who they are.
And they told me, like, I need to go and pick up bills and give them to them. So I said, what's happening? And it then came through that they're going to harm my family, take them away, use them instead. At that point, I had no option to try and find somebody. So I don't. There's a couple of names. I was told a place to take her. That's it. That's all. That is all I know. And to this group of people.
Tell me about them. I need to find them. Tell me everything you know that I think that you'll help me.
There was a white Sprinter van. They are between sort of Lenham, Maidstone area that I got off.
You could. Well, they knew anyway. The police knew he was talking a load of mierda. He was talking a load of rubbish, and the police knew that.
I still don't know. I don't know. They just. I just parked my car up, and then the van come up behind me, flashed me, and they all jumped out, and then they took this girl. They said, you've done good, and I don't know whether my family's going to be alright still. They threatened to take my family away from me. So at that point, I'm doing what I can to protect my family. That's it. So all I know is that it was a roundabout. We could drive there now. I could show you. Roughly, I don't know Lenham, Maidstone area at all.
Did you do it on Google? Did you do it on Google Maps? Like Google Earth, if you drove it?
Right. I drove from Ashford to Maidstone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's a roundabout that breaks up, I guess. So this is the first big roundabout. you come to, you would carry straight over to Maidstone, but instead I went round that roundabout and back up another road. And at that point, I was flashed and pulled over. You guys got out, opened my door, opened that door, pushed me out against the front of the car, took the girl, drove off. That's it. They said we'll be in touch. So I'm here. I'm off work with.
So there, you notice he said took the girl. He didn't mention Sarah's name. He won't want to mention her name. God, I wonder how, it's just so, I don't know how it felt for these other policemen, to be arresting one of their own. And, he's just horrible, isn't he? Because he just makes police, most police, I mean, I'm not saying they're perfect and that, but most police are just decent people themselves with families, etc. They wouldn't do things like this. And he's just horrible. But how he got him, the point is how he inveigled himself into the police force in the first place, how he wasn't picked up all the multiple things that he did before. And, he should never, Sarah's life is the result of mistakes by the police. I mean, he's the responsible one. He's the one who did it, but he wouldn't have been able to do it if there weren't mistakes within the institution itself.
Stress, because I'm here to protect my family. I want to be here 24/7 for my family. They come from my family. I've got nothing myself. I've got no choice.
I'll go back through the route with you in a minute, all right? But how do they contact you? How do you contact them?
I tried to take over on one of their call girls and rip her off. So she's told them, and they
Look, you can almost see the cogs moving in his brain. I mean, he's not even clever enough to have a proper story. I bet he could not believe it when they turned up at his door. He would have just thought he's got away with it, But you can tell he's thinking on his feet. He didn't have a story planned, put it that way. So I think because sometimes some people had said that they thought he might have been tipped off that he was going to be arrested, but I'm not sure about that, because I think if he'd been tipped off, he would have had a better story, personally, I think. But, let me know what you think. But I think wouldn't he have had a better story than no story whatsoever?
got me. So
How do they contact you? How is it they've been contacting you to make these threats?
they just tell me, be here. So Hotel Burston down in Folkestone, got be here. Okay, so I turned up.
How did he
I've
tell
got
him?
no mobile number, and they have got my mobile number. They're obviously outside watching, following. I just honestly.
How are they telling you to be there? How is it they're leaving those directions?
Yeah, they'll come outside. They'll be outside here.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, right, you're going to be in Folkestone at this time, or you're going to be in Ashford at this time. That's it. There's no links, no telephone numbers. I'm completely on my own, but at the same time being threatened. It had Romanian plates.
Oh, Romanian.
On the van.
They always blame it on a foreigner as well. Have you noticed that? It's like they had Romanian plates on the van. So he's blaming it on foreigners. When he's British born and bred and he's still a twonk. It's not all foreigners that commit crimes, but he's dobbing it, straight away he's casting aspersions on Eastern Europeans. Just a foul, horrible man, this guy.
White, like Mercedes Sprinter type van.
Anyway, there you go. That's him. Anyway, he's in prison. So the good news is he's in prison, and he's in prison for the rest of his life. He's never coming out of prison. So that is the good news. But of course, it doesn't bring poor Sarah back. So, Chumba, we've done the leave year. We've done Chumba, I'm going now. I know. We started off, we've done the leap year. You're going to have to go back to the beginning. You could have asked Wolfie to marry you. We have discussed that possibility. We did the leap year. We've done all sorts of things. Then we got on to, unfortunately, one of the hairy bikers passing away. Then we've looked at the interview of the police chief constable in Australia. I mean, it's definitely been a diverse life. But what you should do, rewind it, because I'm showing my age there. But if you go back to the beginning, the cheery bit is at the beginning. Oh, there you go. Is he still there? I don't know if David's still here. Is David still here? He might have gone now, Chumby. You might miss your chance. But you can ask him tonight on the Members Live. So tonight, Members Live, we're looking at the video of my dream about Samantha. We're looking at conspiracy theory, especially to do with the Nicola Bulley case, and anything else that comes up, like it tends to. And I think Wendy's gone now for a lunch, but Wendy gifted 2 memberships. And also I've got 2 other members. So we've got 4 new members to welcome to the family tonight. So, okay. Thank you so much. And remember to live and love wisely, carefully. If you're a leapy, if you're a person who've got your birthday this year because you were born on the 29th, happy birthday. If you're not, go back and see all the traditions. Go and ask someone, if you're a woman who wants to ask a man to marry her, today's the day. And actually they can't say no, or if they say no, they've got to pay a forfeit according to tradition. I didn't know that, but if you go back and watch the beginning of the video, you find out that if the man says no, he has to give you a gift or pay a fine. Wesley, no, it's supposed to be the other way round. I don't know what. I suppose any day men can ask a woman to marry him. I don't know. Is there a traditional day? Anyway. Oh, Bridget, you're working a lot at the moment. Well, that's good. Work is good, isn't it? It's better than not having any work. So good. I can't say no. Right, I think I better go. So I'll see you later in the Members Live. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye. Thank you for being here.